This is the book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 4. But Yahushua said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. Barak to Yahweh, Barak to Yahushua, Barak to Yahweh, Barak to Yahushua. Yahweh is the name who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahushua is his son who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Makah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who well and taught us this truth. They are the true teachers for the nation of Israel on earth today. And citation to the Akim out there, pushing this truth to sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, risking their life for Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua say. I'm the brother Samak from the GMS Miami camp. And yes, the reason why I brought out the book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 4, is that I came across this breaking news from the Times of Israel, which is owned by the 1948ers. And they're reporting how Jake are now being told that they have 60 days to leave out of the statehood of Israel. Okay? They're no longer welcome there. And that's the reason why I brought out the book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 4, because the apostles of Great Millstone, elders, okay, and certain camps that came out of One West, they've always told our people that you shouldn't go to that statehood of Israel where the 1948ers are dwelling at and ruling at currently. You shouldn't go over there. Alright? That flea doctrine is off. And our apostles of Great Millstone have constantly brought that out. That flea doctrine to the homeland right now, alright, is completely off. Alright? You're a false prophet if you're teaching that, and here's the proof. Okay? Here's the proof. That's why I brought out the book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 4, because, hey, alright, we hear the prophets of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. We're given no honor from our own kinsmen, our own countrymen, alright, our own family. We're not respected, even though we're teaching the correct doctrine. Because you got individuals out there, over there in the homeland, alright, now being kicked out. Because that's not the time to go over there. We're waiting on deliverance. We're waiting on salvation. In fact, let me get a quick deliverance scripture. Bear me one moment. Because the scriptures talk about we're going to be delivered out of the land of the north, which is talking about Babylon the Great, which is also known as North America. Jeremiah 16. And it starts around the 14th verse. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Right, because that was a miraculous, alright, deliverance. Okay? Us being delivered out of Pharaoh's hand, alright, during the time of Moses. But guess what? This deliverance is going to top that. 15. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I have gave unto their fathers. Right, so right now, alright, it's not wise to flee into the statehood of Israel. Alright? because the heathens are ruling it, especially the 1948ers. And now they came out with a decree that they want you Jakes out of there. And that's why that flea doctrine was off. Okay? That flea doctrine was very deceptive, and it hurt a lot of our people. Now those Jakes that went there in the 60s, now they got to leave. They got to be kicked out. It says Jake Hebrews say doesn't set to be deported from the statehood of Israel. Spokesman of group says Interior Ministry gave notice to at least 46 families that they must leave country within 60 days despite much of community having a permanent residency. So here it is, you trimmed your ways to please, okay, these heathens, and they still don't give a damn. Hey, that's why, hey man, this is Yapa, man, alright? Hey, that's why we give double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, because they're teaching the right doctrine. First Timothy chapter 5, verse 17, let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine right. Our elders and apostles have been laboring the word and doctrine for 30 plus years, 25 plus years, 20 years, all right, 15 years, 10 plus years, and teaching the correct doctrine, all right. Say, hey, don't be going into that statehood. Don't be going there, all right. That's not the time. We're waiting on deliverance. We're waiting on salvation. Yahweh Bashim Al Shai is going to gather us wherever we're at, especially here in Babylon the Great, where the great salvation is going to be seen. That's what we're waiting on. Let's go into this article. It says dozens of members of polygamous pagan sect in the statehood of Israel have received deportation orders from the government. The group's spokesman said Monday, despite much of the community having received permanent residency under arrangements with the statehood of Israel. The community, which numbers around 3,000 people, is made up of Jake, the true Hebrews, who leaders moved to the statehood of Israel in the 1960s and believe they are descendants of an ancient Israelite tribe, right? Which is the truth. Like, we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But going over there in the 60s wasn't the time. The whole idea was to get yourself together in the land of your captivity and wait upon the Lord. Okay? Wait upon the great deliverance. Most live in the southern desert town of Dimona, right? And then when they went over there, where did the 1948ers put them? In a desert place, okay? And of Dimona. And guess what's going on over there? Because that city came to my mind with an article I read. Yeah, I do watch what's going on in the Middle East when it comes to warfare. It's just the spirit the Lord put upon me. Okay, I'm always watching that area when it comes to the battles and the wars that are happening over there. Syrian missile explodes in area near 1948 nuclear reactor. The 1948 retaliates. Right, so there's a big confrontation going on, all right, between the 1948ers, between the Arabs, Syria, and between Elam, the Iranians, all right, the Persians. A Syrian missile exploded in southern 1948, the statehood of Israel, on Thursday, the Israeli military said, in an incident that triggered warning sirens near the secretive Dimona nuclear reactor. So not only is Jake living in that desert area where there's a desert, okay, he barely could grow anything, but there's a nuclear reactor there. So this is what you succumb yourself to when you believed in false prophets, when you didn't hearken unto the true men of the Lord, okay? Especially here at Great Millstone, when they done told, all right, our people numerous of times, hey, that flea doctrine is off, all right? That flea doctrine is hella off. So now you got to worry about rockets. You got to worry about a nuclear reactor exploding while you're dwelling there. And not, hey, so guess what? You should be glad they're kicking you out, all right? And you should be going back to Babylon the Great and wait on the deliverance, okay? But anyway, a lot of them are going to come back, because where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? Okay? I just wanted to bring that out. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies. Right, and these are the damnable heresies, the flea doctrine. All right? That individual, what's his name? Right here. This was a false prophet. Okay? The Jake Israelites began arriving in the statehood of Israel in 1969 following Ben Carter, a Chicago steelworker who renamed himself Ben Amin Ben Israel and claimed to be the Most High's representative on earth. Okay? False prophet. And that's what you get. Now you're getting kicked out of the land for listening to that fool. Alright? Even denying the Lord that brought them and bring upon themselves swift destruction. Right. And they did deny the Lord because they're not waiting upon him. You're not waiting upon Yahweh Shai's return to take you out of the land of your captivity. Alright? You are that false prophet. Alright? And those that follow him, sucks to be you. Where you gonna go now? Sucker. You know, hey, this is judgment, man. The Lord's bringing judgment, alright, to those that know that they're Israelites first. Okay? 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17. For judgment must begin at the house of Israel. 2. So back to 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. And many shall follow the pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. Right? And that's what y'all get, man. Alright? Following your own pernicious ways, and now look at you. Now you're getting kicked out, and now you got 60 days. But meanwhile, hey, within that 60 days, you got to worry about missiles flying. Alright? Because there's a war happening. Dummies. Now let's go into that flea doctrine, okay, madness, all right, because it's off. So let's go to Jeremiah 50 and 18. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, right? So Jeremiah 50 is all right. It's talking about Babylon, okay, and this is where the children of Israel will be at in these latter days, okay. The great deliverance will be out of Babylon the Great. All right. So all y'all that left America to go to the state of Israel, you were off because you didn't take heed to these scriptures. 18. Back to Jeremiah 50, verse 18. Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, which the Lord is doing. He's breaking this hoe down. All right. As I have punished the king of Assyria, right? And ultimately, the destruction is coming, the nukes. 19. And I will bring Israel again. And the Lord, there's a key point. I will bring Israel again. Not that false prophet, okay, Carter. Not that individual. The Lord said, me, him, through his son Yahushua, to his habitation. And he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan. And his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. Right, so this is going to come. This is what we're waiting on. 20. In those days and that time, saith the Lord, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. Right, the northern and southern kingdom. Right, because what you see over there in that state of Israel is mainly Judah. Okay, Jake went there. Where's the other tribes at? Okay, which goes to show you that was off. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. Right, the Lord reserved his elect. Okay? Let's go to another one. That's who he's delivering. The elect. Jeremiah chapter 51. And this is where the confusion is. With that flea doctrine. That's why precept upon precept. Line upon line. Here a little, there a little. Alright? So let's go to Jeremiah 51 and... Excuse me, I don't jump the gun. Jeremiah 51 and 5. For Israel have not been forsaken, nor Judah, once again, northern and southern kingdom, of his power of the Lord of hosts. Though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Right, we sinned against the Lord. That's why we got kicked out of the land. All right, and that's why we're remembering ourselves now in the land of our captivity, especially here in Babylon the Great. 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon. So does that mean literally to flee? No, it means your mind spiritually flee out of the midst, meaning separate yourself. And here's the point. And deliver every man his soul. Okay? Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Right. So now let's go to Revelation. Remember that. His soul. Okay? Revelation 18:1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Right, this John the Revelator saw the destruction of Babylon the great, which is America. Okay? 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchant earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacy. Right? Code word for America. All right, this is a place where all these nations are making money till this very day. Okay, they're making a lot of money. 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Right, so does that mean literally? No, it means spiritually, in the mind. Okay? 5. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High remember her iniquities. Right, so now let's jump down to 13. So, because this is, I'll jump to 10. And this is talking about the destruction, all right? And this is what the kings of the earth are about to see. Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for one honor is thy judgment. 11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. 12. The merchants of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and all thy wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron, and iron, and marble, talking about America. 13. And cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. There you go. Okay? So clearly, all right, we were going to be captives here in Babylon the Great. We're a slave here. All right? So you trying to usurp prophecy by going to the state of Israel, hey, you done dug yourself a hole. Because now look at you. And let's go to Revelation 11 and 13. I'll start 11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from the Most High entered into them, talking about the elect, all right, knowing who they are, knowing that they're Israelites, and preaching this word in truth through 100% doctrine. And you're going to get that 100% doctrine here at Great Millstone through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shemiel Shai. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them, right? These heathens are scared, because we're standing upon our feet. We're proclaiming ourselves to be the chosen people, and preaching the word, okay, as it is written, okay, and precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. 12. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies behind them. There's the salvation. So that flee doctrine, fleeing literally, you're going off. Because we're still captives here. All right? We're still slaves here. That's why we got to be spiritually in our mind, separate ourselves from Babylon the Great. Okay? You don't want your soul, all right, sucked into the philosophies of this country. You want your mind free. You want your soul, okay, thinking upon the words of Yahweh Shemiel Shai. You want to be spiritually with Yahweh Shemiel Shai. Okay? 13. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and a tenth part of the city, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were frightened and gave glory to the power of heaven. Right, that great city was destroyed. That's where the deliverance is going to come out of. Because while the nukes are dropping on Babylon the Great, 200 million warheads, the elect are getting beamed up, and that's why we here at Great Millstone, through the Spirit power Yahweh Shemiel Shai, we push so hard because we want to be of that number. Okay, And guess what? We believe we are, because who's pushing this truth, the doctrine, the true doctrine, man, week in and week out, day in and day out, and being honest and going into these articles and showing our people, hey, man, you gotta go to that statehood after everything that's going on. All right, we're waiting on salvation. All right, this is based upon faith and belief. So, Lord wanted us, it was edifying. Once again, book of Mark, chapter 6, verse 12. But Yahushua said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, but in his own country and among his own kin and in his own house. Right? We have no honor amongst our own kinsfolk, our own nation, even though we're bringing out the truth. They rather listen to these false prophets and be beguiled by them. All right? And look at these, that flea doctrine. Look what it did. All right? Look what it did. So, Lord, when us was edifying, I want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Makakadosh, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, who grew well and taught us this truth. They are the true teachers for the nation of Israel on earth today. And citation to the Akim out there, pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, and risking their life for Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai sake. Keep studying, brothers. Keep praying. All right, seek the Lord 10 times more. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. To the few that are watching, keep studying, keep praying. We're almost out of here. And it's exciting, you know. We're seeing so much clarity now. We're seeing all these false prophets, all right, making their own tongue fall upon themselves. All right, seeing their own tongue, all right, cleave onto themselves, because they're false prophets. They're liars, man. And they're being exposed every day. And with that, shalom and a Bible ball. Shalom.